Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy, and you're reading with Jimmy. We're reading Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. This is book four. This is the last chapter in book four, chapter 37. You'll recall that the barman helped him to take his boat, and he's going to be rowing now to Switzerland in the dark. Chapter 37. I rowed in the dark, keeping the wind in my face. The rain had stopped. Notice the rain, right? We know that that's a symbol. So the rain had stopped, and only occasionally in gusts. It was very dark and the wind was cold. I could see Catherine in the stern, but I could not see the water where the blades of the oars dipped. In other words, it's very dark. The oars were long, and there were no leathers to keep them from slipping out. I pulled, raised, leaned forward, found the water, dipped, and pulled, rowing as easily as I could. I didn't feather the oars because the wind was with us. I knew my hands would blister, and I wanted to delay it as long as I could. The boat was light, and rowed easily. I pulled it along the dark water. I could not see, and I hoped that we would soon be opposite Palanza. We never saw Palanza. The wind was blowing up the lake, and we passed the point that hides Palanza in the dark and never saw the lights. And when we finally saw some lights much further up the lake and closer to the shore, it was Intra. But for a long time, we did not see any lights, nor did we see the shore, but we rode steadily in the dark, riding with the waves. Sometimes I missed the water with the oars in the dark as the waves lifted the boat. It was quite rough, but I kept on rowing until suddenly we were close to shore against the point of rock that rose beside us. The waves striking it, rushing high up and then falling back. And I pulled hard on the right oar and backed with water with the other, and we went out onto the lake again. The point was out of sight, and we were going on up the lake. We're across the lake, I said to Catherine. Weren't we going to see Palanza? She asked. We missed it, I said. How are you, darling? I'm fine, I said. I could take the oars for a while, she said. No, I'm fine. Poor Ferguson, Catherine said. In the morning, she'll come to the hotel and find that we're gone. I'm not worrying so much about that, I said, as much as getting us into the Swiss part of the lake before it's daylight and the custom guards see us. Is it a long way? It's about 30 kilometers from here, 18 miles. So he's made what, 3 miles, 4 miles? I rode all night, and finally my hands were so sore I could hardly close them over the oars. We were nearly smashed up on the shore several times, but I kept fairly close to the shore because I was afraid of getting lost on the lake and losing time. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the role of luck in all of this, right? Sometimes we were so close to shore, we could see a row of trees and the road along the shore with the mountains behind. The rain stopped and the wind drove the clouds so that the moon shone through. And looking back, I could see the long, dark point of Castiglione and the lake with the whitecaps and beyond, the moon on the high snow mountains. And then the clouds came over the moon again, and the mountains and the lake were gone. But it was much lighter than it had been before, and we could see the shore. I could see it too clearly and pulled out whenever they would not see the boat if there were custom guards along the Palanza Road. And when the moon came out again, we could see the white villas on the shore, on the slopes of the mountain, and the white road where it showed through the trees. All the time I was rowing. The lake widened, and across it on the shore on the foot of the mountains on the other side, we saw a few lights that should be Luino. I saw a wedge-like gap between the mountains on the other shore, and I thought that that must be Luinum. If it was, we were making good time. He doesn't know, does he, ladies and gentlemen? I pulled in the oars, laid back on the seat, and I was very tired of rowing. My arms and shoulders and back ached, and my hands were sore. I could hold the umbrella, Catherine said, and we could sail with it, with the wind. Can you steer? I asked. I think so, she said. Well, you can take this oar and hold it under your arm close to the side of the boat and steer, and I'll hold the umbrella, he said, the narrator. I went back to the stern, showed her how to hold the oar. I took the big umbrella the porter had given me, sat facing the bow, and opened it. And it opened with a clap. I held it on both sides, sitting astride the handle hooked over the seat. The wind was full in it, and I felt the boat suck forward while I held as hard as I could onto the two edges of the umbrella. It pulled hard, and the boat was moving fast. We're going beautifully, Catherine said. All I could see was the umbrella ribs. The umbrella strained and pulled, and I felt us driving along with it, and I braced my feet and held back on it, and then suddenly it buckled. I felt a rib snap on my forehead. I tried to grab the top that was bending with the wind, and the whole thing buckled and went inside out, and I was astride the handle of an inside out ripped umbrella where I had been holding a wind-filled pulling a sail. I unhooked the handle from the seat, laid the umbrella in the bow, and went back to Catherine for the oar. She was laughing. She took my hand and kept on laughing. What's the matter? I took the oar. You look so funny holding that thing. Oh, I suppose so, I said. Well, don't be cross, darling. It was awfully funny. You looked about 20 feet broad and very affectionate holding the umbrella. You looked about 20 feet broad and very affectionate holding the umbrella by the edges. She choked. I'll row. Take a rest and drink. It's a grand night, and we've come a long way. I have to keep the boat out of the trough of the waves, I said. I'll get you a drink and then rest a while, darling. I held the oars up, and we sailed with them. So you got that in your mind? He's sailing with the oars up, so the wind is blowing the oars. Catherine was opening the bag. She handed me a brandy bottle. I pulled the cork with my pocket knife and took a long drink. It was smooth and hot, and the heat went through me, and I felt warmed and cheerful. It's lovely brandy, I said. The moon was under again, but I could see the shore. There seemed to be another point out a long way ahead in the lake. Are you warm enough, Cat? I'm splendid, she said. I'm a little stiff. Bail out that water and you could put your feet down. So no, they've been taking on water. Remember, the barman gave him the bucket, right? So then I rowed and I listened to the oarlocks and the dip and the scrape of the bailing tin under the stern seat. Would you give me the bailer? I said. I want a drink. It's awfully dirty, she said. That's okay, I'll rinse it. I heard Catherine rinsing it over the side, and then she handed it to me, dipped full of water. I was thirsty after the brandy, and the water was icy cold, so cold it made my teeth ache. I looked toward the shore. We were closer to the long point. There were lights in the bay ahead. Thanks, I said, and handed back the tin pail. You're ever so welcome, Catherine said. There's much more if you want. Don't you want to eat something? No, I'll be hungry in a little while. We'll save it until then. All right. We looked at the point ahead was a long, high headland. I went further out into the lake to pass it. The lake was much more narrower now, and the moon was out again, and then the Guardia di Francesa could have seen our boat black on the water if they had been watching. How are you, Cat? I asked. I'm all right. Where are we? I don't think we have more than 8 miles more, I said. Well, that's a long way to row, you poor sweet. Aren't you dead? No, I'm all right, I said. My hands are sore as all. We went up the lake. There was a break in the mountains on the right bank, a flattening out with a low shoreline that I thought must be connobial. Must be, he's guessing now, right? He doesn't know. But remember, he knows geography and the names of places mean things, right? I stayed a long way out because it was now that we ran the most danger of meeting Guardia. There was a high dome-capped mountain on the other shore on the way ahead, and I was tired. It wasn't a great distance to row, but when you were out of condition, it had been a long way. I knew I had to pass that mountain and go up the lake at least 5 miles further before we would be in Swiss water. So he knows that for a fact. Really? The moon was almost down now, and before it went down, the sky clouded over and it was very dark. I stayed well out in the lake, pardon me, rowing a while and then resting and holding the oars so that the wind struck the blades. Let me row a while, Catherine said. I don't think you should, I said. Oh, nonsense. It would be good for me. It would keep me from being too stiff. I don't think you should, Cat, I said. Nonsense. Rowing in moderation is very good for the pregnant lady. All right, I said. You row a little moderately, and I'll go back, and then you come up and hold on to the gunwales when you come up. I sat in the stern with my coat on and the collar turned up and watched Catherine row. She rowed very well, but the oars were too long and bothered her. I opened the bag and I ate a couple of sandwiches and took a drink of the brandy. It made everything much better. And I took another drink. Tell me when you're tired, I said. And then a little later, watch out that oar doesn't pop you in the tummy. If it did, Catherine said between strokes, life might be much simpler. I took another drink of brandy. Notice this conversation. What do you think's going on here? Okay. Remember the conversation. Remember the conversation. How are you going? All right. Tell me when you want to stop, I said. All right. I took another drink of the brandy and then took hold of two gunwales in the boat and I moved forward. No, no, she said, I'm going beautifully. Go back to the stern. I've had a grand rest. For a while with the brandy, I rowed easily and steadily, and then I began to catch the crabs. So soon I was chopping along again with a thin brown taste of bile from having rowed too hard after the brandy. You think? I don't know. Give me a drink of water, will you? I said. Oh, that's easy, she said. Before daylight, it started to drizzle. Remember the rain. The wind was down, or we were protected by mountains that bounded the curve the lake had made. And when I knew daylight was coming, I settled down and rowed hard. I did not know where we were, and I wanted to get to the Swiss part of the lake. So here's the admission, ladies and gentlemen. I did not know where we were. So all the time, he's speculating on where he's at. When it was beginning to be daylight, we were quite close to the shore, and I could see the rocky shore and the trees. What's that? Catherine said. I rested the oars and listened. There was a motorboat chugging out on the lake. I pulled close to the shore and lay quiet. The chugging came closer, and then we saw the motorboat in the rain a little astern of us. There were four Guardia di Finanza in the stern, and their alpini hats pulled down, their cape collars turned up, and their carbines strung across their backs. They all looked sleepy so early in the morning. I could see the yellow on their hats and the yellow marks on their collars. The motorboat chugged on and out of sight in the rain. I pulled out back onto the lake. If we were that close to the border, I did not want to be hailed by a sentry along the road. So I stayed out where I could just see the shore, and I rowed on for 3/4 of an hour in the rain. We heard a motorboat once more, but I kept quiet until the noise of the engine went away across the lake. I think we're in Switzerland, Cat, I said. Really? She said. There's no way to know until we see Swiss troops. Or the Swiss Navy, she said. The Swiss Navy's no joke for us. The last motorboat we heard was probably the Swiss Navy, I said. Well, if we're in Switzerland, let's have a big breakfast. They have wonderful rolls and butter and jam in Switzerland. Why? Because he ate all the sandwiches, didn't he? Poor Catherine. It was clear daylight now, and a fine rain was falling. Rain. The wind was still blowing outside up the lake, and we could see the tops of the whitecaps going away from us and up the lake. I was sure we were in Switzerland now. There were many houses back in the trees from the shore, and up the shore was a village with the stone houses, some villas on the hills, and a church. I'd been looking at the road that skirted the shore for guards, but I didn't see any. The road came quite close to the lake now, and I saw a soldier coming out of the cafe onto the road. He wore a gray-green uniform and a helmet like Germans. He had a healthy-looking face and a little toothbrush mustache. He looked at us. Wave to him, I said to Catherine. She waved, and the soldier smiled embarrassedly and gave a wave of his hand. I eased up rowing. We were passing the waterfront of the village. We must be well inside the border, I said. Well, we want to be sure, darling. We don't want them to turn us back, at the frontier. The frontier is a long way back. I think this is customs town. I think it's Brazagio. Won't there be Italians there? She said. There are always on both sides of a customs town. Not in wartime, I said. I don't think they let the Italians cross the frontier. It was a nice looking little town. There were many fishing boats along the quay, and nets were spread out on racks. There was a fine November rain falling, but it looked cheerful and clean, even with the rain. It looked cheerful and clean, even with the rain. Should we land and have breakfast? All right. I pulled hard on the left oar, came in close, then straightened out when we were close to the quay and brought the boat alongside. I pulled in the oars, took hold of the iron ring, stepped up on the wet stone, and was in Switzerland. I tied the boat and held my hand down to Catherine. Come on up, Cat. It's a grand feeling. What about the bags? She asked. Oh, leave them in the boat, I said. Catherine stepped up, and we were in Switzerland together. What a lovely country, she said. Isn't it grand? I said. Let's go and have breakfast, she said. Isn't it a grand country? I love the way it feels under my shoes, I said. I'm so stiff, I can't feel it very well, she said. But it feels like a splendid country. Darling, do you realize that we're here and out of the bloody place? I do, I said. I really do. I've never realized anything before. Look at the houses. Isn't this a fine square? This is a place that we can get breakfast. There's a place. Isn't the rain fine? I said. They never had a rain like this in Italy. It's a cheerful rain. And we're here, darling. Do you realize we're here? We went inside the cafe and sat down at the clean wooden table. We were cockeyed excited. A splendid, clean-looking woman with an apron came and asked us what we wanted. Rolls and jam and coffee, Catherine said. I'm sorry, we haven't any rolls in wartime, she said. Bread, then. I can make you some toast. All right. I want some fried eggs, too. And how many eggs for the gentleman? She asked. 3. Take 4, darling, she said. 4 eggs. The woman went away, and I kissed Catherine and held her hand very tight. We looked at each other and at the cafe. Darling, darling, isn't it lovely? It's grand, I said. I don't mind there not being any rolls, Catherine said. I thought about them all night. But I don't mind. I don't mind it at all. I suppose pretty soon they will arrest us, I said. Oh, never mind, darling. We'll have breakfast first. You won't mind being arrested after breakfast. And then there's nothing they can do to us. We're British and American citizens in good standing. You have a passport, haven't you? Oh, of course, she said. Well, let's not talk about it. Let's just be happy. I couldn't be any happier, I said. A fat gray cat with a tail that lifted like the plume crossed the floor to our table and curved against my leg to purr each time she rubbed. I reached down and stroked the cat. Catherine smiled at me very happily. Here comes the coffee, she said. They arrested us after breakfast. We took a little walk through the village and then went down to the quay to get our bags. A soldier was standing guard over the boat. Is this your boat? Yes, I said. Where do you come from? Up the lake, I said. Then you have to come. Then I have to ask you to come with me. Well, what about the bags? I asked. You carry the bags. I carried the bags and Catherine walked beside me, and the soldier walked along behind us to the old custom house. In the custom house, a lieutenant, very thin and military, questioned us. What nationality are you? American and British. Let's see your passports. I gave him mine, and Catherine got hers out of her handbag. He examined them for a long time. Why do you enter Switzerland this way in a boat? I'm a sportsman, I said. Rowing is my great sport. I always row when I get a chance. Well, why do you come here? For winter sport, I said. We are tourists and we want to do the winter sport. This is no place for winter sport, the lieutenant said. We know it, but we want to go where they have the winter sport. What have you been doing in Italy? I've been studying architecture, and my cousin has been studying art. Why do you, my cousin, notice, right? Notice, my cousin. Why do you leave there? Well, we want to do the winter sport. With the war going on, you can't study architecture. Please stay where you are, the lieutenant said. He went back into the building with our passports. You're splendid, darling, she said. Keep on the same track. You want to do winter sport. Do you know anything about art? I asked. Rubens, said Catherine. Large and fat, I said. Titan, Catherine said. Titan-haired, I said. How about magenta? I don't know the hard ones, Catherine said. I know him through very bitter. Very bitter, I said. Lots of nail holes. You see, I'll make you a fine wife, Catherine said. I'll be able to talk art with your customers. Here he comes, I said. The thin lieutenant came down the length of the custom house holding our passports. Let me stop there for a minute, just a minute, and go back here and look at this. I don't know if this was rehearsed, do you? I don't know if they had planned to say this, but whatever they said, you can see, do you know anything about art? When he says this line here, do you know anything about art? I don't think it was planned. It's just coming out of his mouth. Remember the role of luck. He had been studying architecture. Maybe that's true. My cousin, that's his suddenly Catherine's his cousin. Okay, so just think about this. I will have to send you to Locarno, he said. You can get a carriage and a soldier will go in with you. All right, I said, but what about the boat? The boat is confiscated. What have you in those bags? He went through the two bags and held up a quarter bottle of brandy. Would you join me in a drink? I asked. No, thank you, he said, straightened up. How much money have you? 2,500 lira, I said. He was favorably impressed. How much has your cousin? Catherine had a little over 1,200 lira. The lieutenant was pleased. His attitude toward us became less haughty. Pardon me. I wrote a note here. Money talks, and do you know what walks? Money talks and BS walks. If they didn't have any money, this would be an entirely different scene. Keep that in mind. Don't forget where he gets his money. If you're going to go for winter sports, the lieutenant said, Wagen is the place. My father has a very fine hotel in Wengen. It's open all the time. My father. That's splendid, I said. Can you give me the name? I'll write it on a card, the lieutenant said. He handed me the card very politely. This soldier will take you into Locarno. He will keep your passports, but I regret this is necessary. I hope good hopes that they will give you a visa or a police permit at Locarno. He handed the two passports to the soldier, carrying the bags, and we started into the village in order. And carrying the bags, we started into the village to order a carriage. Hi, the lieutenant called to the soldier. He said something in a German dialect to him. Do you understand they talk German in Switzerland? The soldier slung his rifle on his back and picked up the bags. The soldier slung his rifle and picked up the bags. Why did that happen? Money talks, right? It's a great country, I said to Catherine. It's so practical, she said. Thank you very much, I said to the lieutenant, and he waved his hand. Service, he said. He followed our guard into the village. We drove to Locarno in a carriage with the soldier sitting on the front seat with the driver. At Locarno, we did not have a bad time. They questioned us, but they were polite because we have passports and money. I do not think that they believed the word of the story, and I thought it was silly, but it was like a law court. You did not want something reasonable, you wanted something technical and then stuck to it without explanations. But we had passports and we would spend the money, and so they gave us provisional visas. Anytime this visa might be withdrawn, we were to report to the police wherever we went. Could we go wherever we wanted? Yes. Where did we want to go? Where do you want to go, Cat? Montreux. It's a very nice place, the official said. I think you will like that place. Here at Locarno is a very nice place, another official said. I am sure you would like it here very much at Locarno. Locarno is a very attractive place. Well, we would like some place where there is winter sport. There's no winter sport at Montreux. I beg your pardon, the other official said. I come from Montreux. There's very certainly winter sport on the Montreux, Aubrac-Benron Railway. It would be false for you to deny that. I don't deny it. I simply said that there's no winter sport at Montreux. I question that, the other official said. I question that statement. I hold on to that statement. I question that statement. I myself have luged into the streets of Manila. I've done it not once, but several times. Luging is certainly winter sport. The other official turned to me. Is luging your idea of winter sport, sir? I tell you, you would be comfortable here in Locarno. So, pardon me, I was going to sneeze. You would find the climate healthy. You would find pardon me. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You would like it very much. The gentleman had expressed the wish to go to Montreux. What is luging? I asked. You see, he's never heard of luging. That meant a great deal to the second official. He was pleased by that. Luging, said the first official, is tobogganing. I beg to differ, the other official shook his head. I must differ again. The toboggan is very different from a luge. The toboggan is constructed in Canada of flat lathes, and the luge is a common sled with runners. Accuracy means something. Couldn't we toboggan, I asked. Of course you could toboggan, the official said. I could toboggan very well. There's excellent Canadian toboggans are sold. The thing to keep in mind, pardon me, is why is the narrator, Lieutenant Henry, recording this dialogue for our sake? Why is he telling us this? This argument between these officials on luging and tobogganing. That's something to think about. Ach brothers sell toboggans. They import their own toboggans. The second official turned away. Tobogganing, he said, requires special piste. You could not toboggan into the streets of Montreux. Where are you stopping? Where are you stopping here? We don't know, I said. We just drove in from Rizago. The carriage is outside. You make no mistake in going to Montreux, the first official said. You will find the climate delightful and beautiful. You will have no distance to go for winter sport. If you really want winter sport, the second official said, go to Endagene or to the Marine. You must protest against your being advised to go to Montreux for the winter sport. At Levant, at Montreux, there is excellent winter sport of every sort. The champion of Monterey glared at his colleague. Gentlemen, I said, I'm afraid we must go. My cousin is very tired. We will tentatively go to Monterey. I congratulate you, the first official shook my hand. I believe that you will regret leaving Locarno, the second official said, but at any rate, you will report to the police at Monterey. There will be no unpleasantness with the police, the first official said. You will find all the inhabitants extremely courteous and friendly. Thank you both very much, I said. We really appreciate your advice very much. Goodbye, Catherine said. Thank you both very much. They bowed us to the door. The champion of Locarno, a little coldly, he went down the steps and into the carriage. My God, darling, she said, couldn't we have gotten away sooner? I gave the name of the hotel one of the officials had recommended to the driver, and he picked up the reins. You've forgotten the army, Catherine said. The soldier was standing by the carriage. I gave him a 10 lira note. I have no Swiss money yet, I said, and he thanked me, saluted, and went off. The carriage started, and we drove to the hotel. How did you happen to pick out Monterey? I asked Catherine. Do you really want to go there? It was the first place I could think of, she said. It's not a bad place. We can find some place up in the mountains. Are you sleepy? I asked. I'm asleep right now, she said. We'll get a good sleep. Poor cat, you had a long, bad night. Oh, I had a lovely time, Catherine said, especially when you sailed with the umbrella. Can you realize we're in Switzerland? I said. No, I'm afraid I'll wake up and it won't be true, she said. I am too. It is true, isn't it, darling? I'm not just driving down to the station in Milan to see you off. I hope not, I said. Don't say that, it frightens me. Maybe that's where we're going. I'm so groggy, I don't know, I said. Let me see your hands, she said. I put them out. They were both blistered raw. There's no hole in my side, I said. Don't be sacrilegious, she said. You know what this is referring to, right? Christ's wounds, correct? No hole in my side, hands from being crucified. I felt very tired and vague in my head. The exhilaration was all gone. The carriage was going along the street. Poor hands, Catherine said. Don't touch them, I said. By God, I don't know where we are. Where are we going, driver? The driver stopped his horse. To the Hotel Metropole. Don't you want to go there? Yes, I said. It's all right, Cat. It's all right, darling. Don't be upset. We'll get a good sleep and you won't be groggy tomorrow. I get pretty groggy, I said. It's like a comic opera today. Maybe I'm hungry. You're just tired, darling. You'll be fine. The carriage pulled up before the hotel. Someone came out for our bags. I feel all right, I said. We're down on the pavement going into the hotel. I know that you'll be all right. You're just tired. You've been up a long time. Anyhow, we're here. Yes, we're really here. We followed the boy with the bags into the hotel. Wow. Huh? Wow. That was chapter 37, right? Chapter 37. And what I wanted to do before we leave is give you an idea of the rowing. I did a Google map of, they started in Stresa, right? And they went around here and they ended up here, Rosario, and then they're going somewhere else to Locarno. But this is the row right here, right here. They say 43 kilometers by car, but he's going along the lake, right? Which is kind of like the car. But in any case, he doesn't start at Stresa. He starts over here someplace, is where they were. And then he just rows and rows and rows. I don't know about you, but Jimmy couldn't row that far. He couldn't row what? You ever row? Do you ever try to row a boat? Even with the wind. Even with the wind pushing you along. Even with the wind. It's rowing is a tough task. And he rowed what, 20 miles, 30 miles, whatever it was. That's a long way. She rowed some of it, but not as much as he did. And why would she row? Why would he let her row? She's pregnant, for Christ's sake. In any case, you've been reading with Jimmy. This is Jimmy. And thank you for watching, and excuse my sneezing because then my nose stuffs up. But it's just this, it's allergies, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a cold. I remember during COVID when somebody would sneeze and they would go, no, not COVID, not COVID. Boy, were we stupid. Anyway, you've been reading with Jimmy. This is Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. It's the last chapter in book 4. There's about 4 more chapters left. You stuck with me. We're closing the gap. We're on the end now, right? Email me, Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com, Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com. Thanks for coming. Enjoy your day. And by the way, you should exercise more.